I used to think that one day life would feel settled, like I'd reach a point where everything made sense, where the plans worked out, the people stayed, and the life I was building was a life I'd keep. But that's not what happened. Something big happens. Everything falls apart. And deep down, you just know. Sometimes your life changes and you keep going like it didn't. You wake up, go to work, you have conversations, and somewhere in the middle of it all, you're still living like your old life exists. Until one day you realize it doesn't. I stopped living the life I thought I'd have and started living the one I didn't recognize or even want. And the hardest part wasn't losing it. It was realizing it wasn't coming back. I'm Chris, and this is the seventh paradigm. I think we all carry some version of life in our heads: family, routine, stability, identity. Not perfect, but it's predictable. I never thought my life would turn out perfect. I just didn't think it would turn out like this. And it wasn't just the event itself. It wasn't just a loss. It was the realization. Those realizations hit in the quiet moments, when you're alone in your house, when you wake up in the middle of the night and roll over expecting to see your person there, and they're not. Or when you miss the small things like being blessed before you leave for work. Those little things you took for granted just aren't there anymore. And that's when I started to understand. It wasn't when everything changed that broke me. It was when I realized nothing was going back to normal. You're physically living your new life, but mentally, you're still in the old one. Your routines change, your rituals change. You move through the same spaces, but they don't feel the same. You expect one outcome from something ordinary, and instead you get reminded that everything is different now. I was living in the life I had, but thinking I was still in the life I lost. And I kept trying to rebuild that same life. I kept trying to feel like the same person. I kept waiting for normal to come back. But it didn't. It doesn't. I was stuck because I was trying to get my old life back while standing in a completely new one. What I didn't realize right away was that after everything changed, I didn't just lose a person. I lost a version of myself. And the problem was, I kept trying to live like he was still here. There was even a point where I met someone, and on paper, it probably looked like I was moving forward. But looking back, I wasn't. I was still trying to be a husband. I was trying to be a husband in a life where that wasn't my role anymore. I was showing up with expectations, habits, and ways of thinking that belonged to a version of me that didn't exist anymore. And that wasn't fair. Not to her, definitely not to me. But when I started to realize I wasn't just holding on to a person, I was holding on to an identity. I wasn't just trying to find someone new. I was trying to continue a life that was already over. And that's a hard truth to face. Because we say we want healing, but what we really want is life restored. We don't want a new life. We want the old one repaired. We want the same people, the same plans, and that same feeling of certainty. But some doors don't reopen. Some chapters don't get rewritten. And some versions of us only existed for a season. The pain came when I stopped asking, how do I get it back? And started asking, who am I now? I didn't find the answer overnight. It came slowly. In rebuilding my home, and finding woodworking again, and reconnecting with old friends, and laughing again when I thought I had forgotten how, and in realizing I could create meaning instead of only mourning what was gone. And I'll tell you something I've never really said out loud. At my wife's funeral, I had this brief shot of giddiness at the thought that I could shape my life any way I wanted to. And I felt guilty for even thinking that in a moment like that. But grief is complicated. Loss is complicated. Sometimes pain and possibility exist in the same breath. The feeling was fleeting. A few months later, I tried hosting people at our home, but it wasn't the same. I wasn't used to hosting alone, but that took years for me to grow into. But now I love having the people I love in my home. And one day, if you keep going, you look around and realize something surprising. You're no longer surviving the loss. You're actually living again. Different life, different you, but maybe, just maybe, more yourself than ever before.